there's a grief that comes with that timeline thing. And so what do you do with that? What do you do with that grief when you realize that you are not where you want to be? And for me, the thing that came to me is that I started calling it the gift, or rather the art of becoming. So, have you ever felt like you are behind in life, like really behind, and everyone seems to have a 10-year plan, and somehow you are left in the dust. You are not part of the planning process, and you don't know how people got to where they are. So everyone all of a sudden is graduating with a PhD or a master's degree. Someone else has a new house and a new car or two, and you are just there like, is there anything I'm doing wrong? Welcome to OMG, another podcast. We are discussing today the illusion of what is it called? The 30-year timeline. Just this came to me because, especially, I love social media, but also sometimes it's crazy pressure because, there's an engagement picture there. There's someone who's building a home there. There's someone who has been promoted and is now director of directors at their place of work. And you feel like, well, but I've been putting in the work. I've been doing the things that need to be done, and I'm not where I would like to be. And so that comes in the creep of comparison. And of late, especially like I mentioned, in my early 30s, and I've just been wondering, are there things that did I do something wrong? There's some places, like for example, in my career, I would have liked to be further, would have liked to have built a home. And let's also talk about the timeline. I was convinced, by the way, by 25, thereabout, I would have a family, I would be married, I would have children, I would have the house and the white picket fence and the two cars and three dogs, the life. And that's not my current reality. So I'm not married. I don't have children yet. I don't know if that's going to be my reality. However, there's a grief that comes with that timeline thing. And so what do you do with that? What do you do with that grief when you realize that you are not where you want to be? And for me, the thing that came to me is that I started calling it the gift, or rather the art of becoming. Because when I realized that I was in that runt of comparison, I was not happy. And not with other people, actually. This has nothing to do with other people. Of course, I'm happy for my friends and family. I'm really, you know, happy for their milestones, but also on a personal level, I thought, because I'm assertive, I'm a go-getter, and all these things that I want to do, but then I've just not achieved them. I'm not a director of directors. I have not bought a buroti maguta somewhere, or if I have, it's not as big as I thought it would be, or I've not built the house, and I've not retired my parents. Things like that. They go through my mind, and you just sit there and you wonder, okay, this and XYZ did it. Did I not do something right? Did I not plan correctly for this? And it's very easy, especially when you're in that space, and when your mind clicks to that, especially when you turn, I don't know what happens when you turn 30. I think it's because for the longest time, we've been told 30 is now you're old. You're supposed to be a grown up. And in some ways, it's true. You are grown and you can't necessarily have excuses for the mistakes you did in your 20s. But you know why don't we give ourselves time to unfold? Because I'm just thinking, for example, if I started this podcast in my 20s, I'm not too sure that I would be as comfortable in my skin as I am now. And maybe even when I'm 40 years old, I will be even more comfortable in my skin. However, I feel like starting this podcast now is timely because I am myself. I am at home with who I am. I know who I am. I know my strengths. I'm very aware of my weaknesses. I am aware of the things that I need to work on, and I'm okay with that. So instead of looking at it as, oh, damn, like, if you started in your 20s, like I told you before, I think I mentioned that I had started, for example, the podcast page in 2021, never posted a damn thing or did anything about it. I would have been like, okay, now you would have had 4 years of experience. But what state of like mentally would I have been? What state would I have been in terms of like self awareness? And so I decided to not punish myself really and accept myself in terms of who I am and where I'm at. And I'm slowly accepting into other facets of my life. Another thing, I started my master's, I think in what, 2022, I believe, yeah. And I got stuck in doing my thesis. The research, that mental labor just became too much. And so I usually, again, you start beating yourself up. And by the way, this is not to say that you're not supposed to be responsible. Yes, you're supposed to be responsible and show up for yourself. But I was just thinking to myself, like, oh, if you had not taken the break, now you would be done. But there's so many times I've had detours that have been able to evolve into who I am today, and I'm so grateful for that. Um, I feel like, for example, even like, like I mentioned, starting this podcast, I'm doing it for the right reasons. It's just to reclaim my voice. I want to create, I want to stretch my creative muscle. I want to do something fun that is just for me. And maybe previously, if that was the case, if I've started the podcast earlier, that maybe that would not have been the case. I can't even remember why I wanted to start it initially. I think I just wanted to express myself still creatively, but I don't know if I had the tools. Maybe I would not have been at Hawaii Studios because it hadn't started there. And those are my partners for the podcast. By the way, please follow them on all social media uh, platforms. But there's such a beauty about unfolding and becoming. There's something that you learn each and every year, that you're not the same person last month, 2 months ago, a year ago. And I think for me, just as a reminder, has been not to beat myself up too hard, that I am not necessarily perfect. Am I doing my best? Yes. Am I showing up? Yes. And that is what we're supposed to be telling ourselves. Like, we're showing up for ourselves, we are showing up authentically. And sometimes life happens. You can't necessarily control all variables that are presented to you. However, if you are given an opportunity, please take it. If you are given something, don't think twice about it and start thinking like, oh, am I really meant to be a part of the table? That's imposter syndrome. Don't do that to yourself. Who knows if that opportunity will come again? However, especially for things that are not within our control, that's when you need to let life be life. If you're someone who believes in God, then let God plan your life, and and accept and trust in the timing of your life, also in His hands. So there are just, so many things that I really thought by now, like I mentioned, the house. I don't know if it's because of my upbringing, and also I'm going to sound a bit stereotypical Kikuyu. I really thought I would have a house and a buroti somewhere, but I don't, and that's okay. But it's something that I am still working towards, and it's something that I desire. So it didn't happen at 25. Maybe it happened at 35. Maybe I didn't have children at 27. Maybe I'll have them at 37, and who knows? But it's just being at peace with what your life is and what it presents, and creating every day, every single day, waking up and creating the kind of life that you want, in a way that makes you feel happy, full, and satisfied in whatever way that looks like, and not necessarily following societal norms or a timeline, because there are people who actually, for example, don't want to climb up the corporate ladder or the career ladder, and that's okay. There are other people who want to just have a slow life and probably live on an island or by the ocean, and that's okay. The people who want to have children and a spouse and have their white picket fence life, and that's okay. And I think we should stop shaming people for their wishes and their desires and saying that's wrong or that's right, or you're not, for example, doing what you're supposed to be doing. Who says that? I remember, again, like, just talking to a lovely group of ladies, and we were saying about women and having it all, and now it's gotten to a point of a woman can't even be excited because she's engaged or she's married, because now it's like, oh, is that an achievement? But yeah, it makes them happy. They've achieved something. They've been able to find a partner and a spouse that they can partner with, and they can live life, and they can have children and things like that. I think for me the biggest challenge is not to have like a blanket cover for everyone and saying that this is the right path. What is the right path? The right path is the path to authenticity. The right path is the path that makes you feel fulfilled. The right path is the one that makes you feel happy to live the life that you're living every day. That is the right path to me. And that is what we should all be striving for. So if you don't see yourself as, a woman in the kitchen cooking and you just see yourself as a career woman, please, by all means, go for that. And it all comes from self acceptance, radical self acceptance, and not comparison. At the end of the day, we have ourselves to live with. We have only us to be answerable to. Therefore, we only have us to make happy. So, what are you doing about it? And one of the things that I've learned about myself and also just being in this season is to really be happy with my choices. That it doesn't have to look quote unquote cute to everyone else, or it doesn't have to necessarily look correct to everyone else. But what does that look like? And, when people ask you about it, be confident in what your answer is, be confident in your truth, be confident in your response. And there are people who have lived that so authentically, and they're so bold about that. Women, especially in the past few years, even here in Kenya, who have come out to say, for example, I'm child free. Oh my goodness, I have seen some of those interviews. I've seen the comments under those videos, and it's like people saying very mean things like, "Oh, wait until you're 40, and who will take care of you?" What does having children have anything to do with them taking care of you in old age? Are you just having children then to just be your caregivers when you're older? Or saying like, oh, you don't want marriage, wait until you're 60 and you're lonely. But that doesn't necessarily mean so. We have a community outside our spouses, and there are other people who are actually married and they're alone and lonely. So it's not to have a blanket response or approach to situations, to in the way people choose to live their lives, especially if it's not popular, especially if it's not comfortable, especially if it's not what you subscribe to. Let's be respectful. Let's be curious. Let's lead with curiosity. Because a lot of us have lost that spark of being curious. Oh, tell me about yourself. Oh, you're not married. Oh, like, oh, we hope you get someone soon. But have you ever sat down to ask yourself, does that person even want marriage? Does that person even have that desire? So what has happened is that we find ourselves really like shaming people for their desires, shaming them for the things that are authentic to them, shaming them in a way that they don't even want to share what they want to do with their lives or what their real opinion is. And that has led to just so many people living a lie or living a life that is not theirs. And I hope that's not you, because I don't want to live that way as well. I want to be authentically, fully Mukami and own my choices and be accepted in our community, because I think at the end of the day, that's all we want as human beings: connection, acceptance, to be seen and to be appreciated for who we are. So I think it's just for us to be kinder to each other. Are you being kind to your neighbor if they say, for example, they want to be child free? Sometimes it's not even that deep. It's just a personal preference, and that's okay. And especially these things are quote unquote called controversial when someone shares them. We always think it's a bigger, deeper reason why. Why can't it just be, it's not my thing? And that's okay. And just, you leave it at that. I'm just very passionate about this one, about people being able to be who they are, to live freely, to want to be who they are without that judgment from society, and not feeling like you're left behind. Make plans, absolutely. I'm such a planner as well. I like planning ahead. I like knowing what my week looks like, what my next month will look like. I diarize everything just to make sure that I'm on schedule. I don't like being late, but also let life happen. Be open to the possibilities of something, what is the word, serendipitous, happening to you, something magical, something out of the norm that you had not planned for. And that's what life is. That sometimes you can plan and you can have all these plans and you want to do things by this certain age. But I think where it becomes very negative and also not very fun is when this thing becomes a prison and now you feel like you're not enough, or you feel like you're a failure, and you don't celebrate all the other things and the beauty around you or the things you've been able to achieve. So maybe you don't have a business, but you have a job. Maybe you don't have a child, but you have a spouse. Maybe you don't have either, and you're happy and you're healthy and you're thriving in your personal life and you know your purpose and you're following that and you're pursuing that. So I think for me, that's just a reminder as well for myself to really interrogate, first of all, what do you really want? And not because of what society has told you, not because of what society expects of you, not because of what society is telling you. Oh, you need to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and dress up in a certain way and do all those things, and you should be striving for this, and this is the car you should be buying, and this is the kind of person you should be dating, or this is the kind of person you should be living with, or this is the kind of house that you need to stay in. What is true to you? And that's been such a timely reminder for myself as someone in my early 30s. I remember this is so important to me because even as I started the podcast, I talked about why it's important for me to do so, why it was important for me to start it, which is to be authentic to myself, to have a creative outlet, and not because of other external noises or expectations. And so maybe, I don't know, I've not asked my family, but maybe this is not what they envisioned for me in terms of my life, but it does make me feel happy. It does make me feel good. It makes me feel good to wake up in the morning tomorrow and say and own my choices and own the things that I am doing. And I'm just hoping that you don't let the imaginary timelines created by society and people, or let the pressure on LinkedIn captions and Instagram posts or TikTok reels deter you from who you really are. That's why it's so important to really check in with yourself, check in with your body, check in with who you are, check in with your ambition, check in with what you want to do, and then take it from there. And then now decide, I want this for myself because that is my true desire. That is what I truly desire internally, and not because someone has wished it for me. And it's also okay to change your mind. It is so okay to change your mind. One of the things, like especially early on, for example, in my career, I really knew that I wanted to be in the newsroom. So I did that for a very short stint for about a year. I was a reporter, and I just realized I don't think this is for me. I want to tell stories, but not in this manner. And I changed my career, and then I went into advertising, and I did that for a while, actually a couple of years. And it was fun, it was adrenaline filled, it was fast paced, it was really exhilarating. And then I was like, I don't know, I want to change. So I went back to the thing that I actually studied for in school, which is what I do for my 9 to 5, which is PR and comms. And I'm doing that now. And now I am doing this creative venture, and I don't even know what tomorrow will look like. I don't know what 5 years will look like, but I'm okay with reinventing myself. And there are people who feel like you just have to stay one path. You don't have to be one thing. That's what I believe, at least. You don't have to be one thing. You don't have to stay in one place for too long. If it doesn't feel fun anymore, if it doesn't feel fulfilling anymore, please move. Please change. You're not a tree. You can always move. You can always adjust because you're free to be yourself. Life is so big, it's so vast. You're literally like a drop in the ocean, and life is there for you to live and to really take a hold on. Please do not make one thing your identity. And also, don't let other people's expectations really cloud your judgment in terms of who you are and what you want to do for yourself. That's just a timely reminder for myself as well. Like I say, whenever I think about these things and I just want to talk to you about them and also talk to myself about them, sometimes when I'm discussing these things, it's also for me to process them verbally. I'm a verbal external processor. So this also really helps me remember what's important to me. And so this is why I'm calling it the joy of becoming. It's not necessarily being tied down to timelines or expectations and things like that, but it's coming back to yourself, coming back to who you are, coming back home and knowing what you want to be. So I think my question is just simple. What have you been thinking about that has not been authentic to yourself and you want to let go of? What is that thing that you've been wanting to pursue and you're like, I'm not too sure if that's for me, or it's too late? Who says who? Or I'm not qualified. I like this quote that says, I don't even know who said it, but it's quite a lot there. It says, first make it exist and then make it perfect. Even me right now, I'll tell you the truth. I feel sometimes I'm clanky. Even as I make these episodes, I don't know if I'm polished. I don't even know if that's the mood I want to go for. Being authentic is also very difficult, and being honest, because I'm also drawing from a lot of my personal experiences and my thoughts, and that's hard to show up like that. But I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm making it exist. I'll make it perfect as I go by. Probably I'll be more authentic. I'll be deeper in my insights and what I'm sharing. But I showed up and I made the first step. And so I hope you can make that for yourself. I hope you can do that for yourself. This is just a timely reminder for all of us just to be true to who we are. And please share with me, obviously, on all my social media platforms. That is at OMG Another Podcast. Let me know, what are you thinking about in terms of letting go? If it's a timeline expectation, if it's an external voice, what more do you want to embrace in yourself? Please know that all these things, I will start sharing them in future episodes, and I'll really appreciate if you engage with my content. Please subscribe, share, and like. Still at OMG Another Podcast on all social media platforms. That's YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, as well as TikTok. Thank you so much.